I'm Nurse Alex Martinez, and for over 12 years, I've worked in the intensive care unit at St. Mercy Medical Center, a place where moments often teeter between life and death, and where every second counts. Critical care nursing is a profession defined by vigilance, swift action, and a deep understanding of both technology and human fragility. Yet, despite every protocol, every training drill, and every ounce of experience, I encountered one night that defied everything I thought I knew about medicine and the machines that support it. St. Mercy's ICU is a modern fortress of healing, equipped with advanced monitoring systems that keep a constant watch over the vital signs of our most vulnerable patients. The unit hums with the quiet urgency of ventilators, infusion pumps, and heart monitors, all interconnected through a network that allows instant updates on patient status. Our multidisciplinary team, composed of nurses, physicians, respiratory therapists, and technicians, works in seamless coordination, each member anticipating the other's moves to provide the best care possible. Over the years, I came to depend on the rhythm of the ICU, the familiar sounds of alarms, the steady flow of information, and the subtle cues from patients that signal improvement or decline. On that particular evening, I started my shift like any other, greeting colleagues, reviewing patient charts, and preparing for the long hours ahead. The patients under my care were stable, their conditions carefully managed but critical, as is always the case in ICU. There was Mrs. Henderson, recovering from pneumonia but still reliant on supplemental oxygen. Mr. Lee, a post-operative cardiac patient under close observation, and a handful of others, each with their own complex medical narratives. The atmosphere was intense but controlled, a delicate balance between hope and vigilance. As the night deepened, the ICU settled into its usual cadence. Nurses moved quietly between bedsides, checking 4 lines and adjusting ventilator settings. Doctors conducted rounds, delivering updates to families and making plans for the day ahead. The soft beeping of monitors was a soundtrack I knew intimately. It was both a comfort and a warning, a reminder of the precariousness of our patients' conditions. I took a moment to breathe during a brief lull, sipping water and exchanging a few words with my fellow nurse, Maria, who had been my partner on countless shifts. Yet beneath the calm, a subtle tension always lingers in an ICU nurse's mind. There's an unspoken understanding that the unexpected can happen at any moment. We train for emergencies, code blues, sudden drops in blood pressure, respiratory failure. Our instincts sharpened over the years, fueled by countless experiences where quick thinking made the difference between life and death. But nothing could have prepared me for what was about to unfold. The night appeared ordinary up to that point. Patients stable, machines functioning within normal parameters, the team alert but not overwhelmed. I ran routine checks, updated charts, and responded to minor alarms that signaled routine adjustments rather than crises. The steady pulse of the unit felt reassuring. And then, without warning, everything changed. It began with a sound, a sharp, piercing chorus of alarms erupting simultaneously from every bedside monitor in the ICU. At first, I thought it was a system-wide glitch, a false alarm triggered by some technical hiccup. But the alarms didn't stop. They continued, unwavering and synchronized, filling the room with an urgent and chaotic symphony of alerts. Red lights flashed on every monitor, signaling critical warnings across the unit. The noise was overwhelming, the suddenness of it throwing the ICU into disarray. My heart raced as I glanced around the room. Colleagues snapped into action, their faces a mix of shock and determination. Some nurses rushed to their assigned patients, checking manual vital signs, pulse, blood pressure, oxygen saturation, while others called out instructions, trying to coordinate the response. The monitors, which we had trusted implicitly, were now broadcasting simultaneous distress signals from every bed. It was unlike anything I had ever witnessed. The first few seconds felt surreal. I remember gripping the edge of a patient's bed, trying to make sense of the chaos. The alarms were constant, unrelenting, and synchronized in a way that was almost unnatural. How could every patient be deteriorating at the exact same instant? It made no clinical sense, yet the machines told a different story. Instinct took over. Maria and I split up, moving swiftly from one bedside to another, assessing patients with practiced efficiency. I checked Mrs. Henderson's pulse manually, feeling the steady beat beneath my fingertips. Her breathing was calm, her skin warm. Mr. Lee's cardiac monitor showed arrhythmias on the screen, but when I checked his rhythm with a stethoscope, his heart sounded steady. Across the unit, the pattern repeated. Monitors screamed alarms, yet patients appeared stable on physical exam. The contradiction was baffling and unsettling. We documented our findings, communicated rapidly with the attending physicians, and called for immediate technical support. The biomedical engineering team arrived within minutes, their faces grim as they surveyed the chaotic scene. They began running diagnostics on the monitoring network, checking for hardware failures, software bugs, or external interference. IT specialists were summoned to rule out cyber intrusions or systemic malfunctions. Despite exhaustive testing, the source of the alarms remained elusive. The equipment functioned correctly when tested independently. No electrical surges were detected. The network showed no signs of compromise. It was as if the monitors were simultaneously sending out false distress signals. But why? And how? The perplexing nature of the event left us grasping for answers. Meanwhile, the emotional toll on the staff was palpable. The steady confidence that we usually carried was replaced by a mix of confusion, frustration, and anxiety. Nurses exchanged worried glances, questioning their own assessments and doubting the reliability of the technology we depended on. Physicians conferred in hushed tones, trying to puzzle out the anomaly while maintaining composure for their patients and families. Families of patients gathered anxiously outside the unit, sensing the upheaval inside. We did our best to reassure them, explaining that we were investigating the alarms and ensuring their loved ones were safe. Yet, the atmosphere was thick with uncertainty. The very devices designed to protect and alert us had become sources of mistrust. As the minutes stretched into hours, our team remained vigilant. We maintained frequent manual checks, documented stable vital signs, and kept communication lines open with both patients and their families. The experience was a humbling reminder of how much we rely on technology and how vulnerable we become when that trust is shaken. That night in the ICU at St. Mercy Medical Center tested every facet of our training and teamwork. It was a moment when the familiar became strange, when the tools designed to save lives seemed to falter without explanation. For me, it was a profound lesson in uncertainty, resilience, and the unpredictable nature of critical care. The alarms would eventually cease, and the mystery would deepen, but the memory of that night, the unity, the confusion, the unwavering commitment to our patients, would remain etched in my mind forever. The intensive care unit at St. Mercy Medical Center is unlike any other environment in the hospital, a place where technology and human expertise intertwine to hold the fragile line between life and death. It's a high-stakes setting where every monitor beep and every flashing light carries weight beyond its immediate appearance. The ICU is a controlled chaos, a place where precision meets urgency, and where the smallest detail can tip the scales. The layout of our unit reflects the critical nature of the care we provide. 30 beds arranged in clusters, each equipped with the latest in patient monitoring technology, continuous ECG, pulse oximetry, invasive blood pressure lines, ventilators with multiple modes, infusion pumps calibrated to the milliliter, and arterial blood gas analyzers ready at the bedside. The central monitoring hub is the nerve center, where screens display real-time data from every patient, accessible to nurses and physicians alike. This web of interconnected devices and data streams forms the backbone of our clinical vigilance. Staffing in the ICU is meticulously structured to ensure constant supervision. Nurses like myself are assigned a maximum of 2 patients at a time, allowing us to observe subtle changes that machines might not detect. Physicians make rounds multiple times a day, supported by respiratory therapists, pharmacists, and dietitians. Each discipline contributes to a comprehensive approach to critical care. Our multidisciplinary team gathers daily in briefing sessions, reviewing complex cases, adjusting treatment plans, and sharing insights. It's a culture built on collaboration and shared responsibility. The technology itself is formidable. Our monitoring systems are networked through a secure digital platform that continuously collects and archives patient data. Alerts are programmed with thresholds tailored to each patient's condition, designed to prompt immediate intervention when something deviates from the expected. These machines have saved countless lives by providing early warnings of deterioration. Yet, we also know their limitations, the potential for false alarms, technical glitches, or interference. Regular maintenance and rigorous quality assurance protocols are in place to minimize these risks. On a typical evening, the ICU pulses with quiet intensity. Nurses move fluidly between bedsides, checking ventilator settings, adjusting sedation levels, administering medications, and providing comfort to patients who often cannot communicate their own needs. The hum of machines blends into a constant background soundtrack, punctuated by occasional alarms that signal shifts in patient status. The unit never truly sleeps. Vigilance is relentless. The physical environment reflects the tension and hope that coexist here. Natural light is scarce, filtered through tinted windows to reduce glare on screens. The walls are painted in calming hues, and noise levels are carefully managed to prevent sensory overload. Despite these efforts, the emotional weight is palpable. Family members wait anxiously in designated areas, their faces etched with worry. Staff navigate the emotional complexities of critical illness daily, balancing empathy with clinical detachment to provide the best care. Within this high-tech, high-pressure environment, every piece of equipment is a lifeline. Ventilators regulate breaths for patients unable to breathe independently. Dialysis machines cleanse the blood when kidneys fail. Infusion pumps deliver precise doses of vasopressors, sedatives, or antibiotics. The monitors track heart rhythms, blood pressures, oxygen saturation, respiratory rates. A symphony of data points constantly analyzed by both human and machine. Communication is key. Nurses and doctors rely on standardized handoff protocols to ensure continuity of care. Information flows through electronic health records, bedside whiteboards, and verbal updates. The complexity of cases demands constant vigilance. A single oversight can have dire consequences. We are trained to recognize subtle signs of deterioration before machines sound alarms, but ultimately, these devices serve as an extension of our senses. The ICU is also a place of rapid decision-making. When an alarm sounds, it triggers a chain of responses: assessment, intervention, documentation. Protocols guide actions, but clinical judgment remains paramount. Team members coordinate seamlessly, each aware of their role in the event of emergencies like cardiac arrest or respiratory failure. Simulation training hones these skills, preparing us for scenarios that test both our technical abilities and emotional resilience. The multidisciplinary nature of the team creates a dynamic environment. Physicians consult specialists in cardiology, infectious disease, nephrology, and other fields. Respiratory therapists adjust ventilator settings based on nuanced patient needs. Pharmacists review medication interactions and dosing. Social workers and chaplains provide support to families navigating the emotional turbulence of critical illness. The ICU functions as a microcosm of medicine's complexity, where science, technology, and humanity intersect. Despite the sophistication, the environment is not immune to stress and fatigue. Long shifts, emotional strain, and the relentless pace can wear down even the most experienced staff. We lean on each other for support, sharing moments of levity amid the gravity of our work. The camaraderie forged in these halls is a vital buffer against burnout, reminding us that we are not alone in this demanding vocation. The structural design of the unit also reflects patient safety priorities. Hand hygiene stations are ubiquitous, and infection control protocols are rigorously enforced to prevent hospital-acquired infections. Equipment is regularly sterilized, and patient movement is minimized to reduce risk. The ICU operates under strict policies that balance aggressive treatment with compassionate care. Technology integration extends beyond the bedside. The hospital's electronic health record system allows for real-time documentation, accessible across departments to facilitate coordinated care transitions. Telemetry data can be reviewed remotely by specialists, enabling expert input without the need for physical presence. The intersection of digital innovation with clinical practice is a defining feature of modern critical care. Yet, for all its advancements, the ICU remains a place of uncertainty. Patients' conditions can change in moments, defying expectations and challenging protocols. The machines, though powerful, are tools that depend on human interpretation and intervention. It is in this delicate balance that our work unfolds, in a space where science meets unpredictability. That night, as I prepared for my shift, the ICU was functioning as it always did. A finely tuned ecosystem of technology, expertise, and care. The monitors glowed softly, the ventilators whispered steady breaths, and the team moved with practiced precision. We trusted the systems that surrounded us, confident in their ability to alert us to danger and guide our actions. Little did we know that trust was about to be profoundly tested. The environment that had provided structure and security would suddenly become the stage for an event that challenged the very foundations of our critical care practice. The advanced monitoring systems that we relied upon would, for a brief and bewildering moment, unite in an alarming chorus that no one could immediately explain. In the moments before that extraordinary occurrence, the ICU was a place of order and control, a world where technology and human skill combined to offer hope and healing in the face of life's most formidable challenges. The night ahead would soon unravel that sense of certainty, plunging us into a mystery that defied explanation and demanded every ounce of our resolve. The evening at St. Mercy's ICU had started like so many others. Steady, predictable, underscored by the familiar blur of routine tasks and focused vigilance. As the clock ticked toward the early hours, the unit carried its usual hum of activity, the quiet rhythm that marks a typical night shift in critical care. Walking into the ICU that evening, I felt the weight of responsibility settle over me, tempered by the confidence built from years of experience. The patients were stable, their conditions closely monitored but without the acute crises that sometimes punctuated our nights. Mrs. Henderson rested peacefully, her oxygen saturation steady. Mr. Lee, recovering from cardiac surgery, was resting with no signs of distress. The other patients had their own challenges, but nothing out of the ordinary. It was a night that, on the surface, promised to be manageable. The nursing team was in place, each member settling into their roles with practiced efficiency. Maria, my longtime colleague, was handling 2 patients in the adjacent pod, while I was responsible for a similar caseload. The physicians had completed their rounds earlier, and the respiratory therapists were conducting their routine ventilator checks. The atmosphere, while intense, was calm, an equilibrium maintained by experience and teamwork. As I moved through the unit, I performed standard assessments, checking 4 lines for patency, adjusting infusion pump rates, listening to breath sounds, and reviewing lab results. The monitors provided a constant stream of information: heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, oxygen saturation, each parameter within expected limits. The patients were sedated or awake as their conditions dictated, and families had retreated to waiting areas, their anxiety momentarily eased by updates from the medical team. I recall the subtle sounds that defined the environment: the faint hiss of ventilators, the low murmur of conversation between staff, the occasional beep of a monitor signaling a routine alert. These sounds were part of the ICU's signature soundtrack, a backdrop that, while unremarkable, was essential to the flow of care. During this period, I took a moment to check on Mr. Lee. His chest was rising and falling in a steady rhythm. His pulse was strong. The ventilator settings were appropriate for his post-operative state, and sedation levels seemed adequate. I adjusted the light in his room to reduce glare on the monitors, mindful of his comfort and the need to minimize disturbances. Elsewhere, Mrs. Henderson was awake and alert, responding to questions with a faint smile. Her oxygen levels were stable on nasal cannula, and her respiratory effort appeared effortless. I offered reassurance, knowing how vulnerable patients can feel in the ICU, surrounded by machines and strangers. The shift progressed with the familiar cadence of periodic checks and documentation. Maria and I exchanged brief updates as we passed each other in the hallways, concise information sharing that kept us connected and informed. The night was unfolding as expected. The patients were holding steady, and the team functioned smoothly. In the nurses' station, monitors displayed continuous data streams. I glanced at the central monitor bank, noting the steady green lines indicating stable rhythms and vital signs. The electronic health record system was updated regularly, capturing medication administrations and clinical observations. The integration of technology and clinical practice was seamless, supporting our efforts to provide vigilant care. Despite the calm, an undercurrent of alertness always lingered in the ICU. We know that stability can shift without warning. Our training reinforces the need to anticipate changes, to recognize subtle signs before alarms sound. The balance between watchfulness and calm is delicate, maintained through experience and teamwork. As the night deepened, the lighting in the unit dimmed slightly to support patient circadian rhythms, though the glow from screens and monitors persisted. Staff conversations softened, and the pace of activity slowed marginally. Patient comfort measures were prioritized, adjusting blankets, repositioning to prevent pressure injuries, managing sedation to balance rest and neurological assessment. The families in the waiting areas were updated regularly. Some paced anxiously, others sat in quiet vigil. The emotional landscape of the ICU is complex, shaped by hope, fear, and the unknown. Our communication with families is a vital part of care, providing information and compassion amid uncertainty. In this environment, every gesture matters. A reassuring touch, a clear explanation, a moment of presence can ease the burden on patients and loved ones. The human connection is as critical as any medication or machine. As the clock approached midnight, the unit maintained its equilibrium. Nurses performed routine tasks, checking infusion pumps, ensuring equipment function, documenting care. Physicians were on call, ready to respond if needed. The multidisciplinary team operated like a well-oiled machine, each member attuned to the other's needs and the patient's conditions. It was in this context of order and routine that the extraordinary event would soon unfold, an event that would disrupt the usual patterns and challenge our assumptions about technology, patient care, and the nature of critical illness. But at this moment, the ICU was simply a place of focused attention and steady care, where every person played a role in safeguarding fragile lives. I remember pausing at a patient's bedside, noting the steady rhythm on the monitor and the faint rise and fall of the chest. It was a scene repeated across the unit, patients stable, machines functioning, staff alert. The night promised the kind of stability we all strive for in critical care, a reprieve from crises and emergencies. Little did we know, the calm would soon be shattered by an event unlike any we had encountered. A simultaneous cascade of alarms that would plunge the unit into confusion, testing the limits of our training and the resilience of our team. But for now, those moments before the storm were marked by quiet diligence, the steady beat of care in a place where every breath counts. The sudden eruption of alarms shattered the calm that had settled over the ICU like a thunderclap in a clear sky. In an instant, every monitor across the entire unit erupted into a synchronized chorus of beeps, buzzes, and flashing red lights. It was as if the machines had collectively decided to cry out in unison, demanding immediate attention. The noise was deafening, a relentless barrage that filled every corner of the room and left no space for silence or hesitation. I remember the very second the alarms began. One moment, the ICU was a place of steady rhythm and quiet vigilance. The next, it became a chaotic symphony of urgent alerts. The suddenness was staggering. Every monitor, from the farthest bedside to the central station, began emitting alarms simultaneously. The flashing red warning lights painted the room in an eerie glow, casting long shadows on the walls and faces of the staff. The shrill beeps were relentless, echoing off the sterile surfaces and amplifying the sense of crisis. Nurses snapped to attention, their faces a mixture of disbelief and determination. It was impossible for every patient to be deteriorating at the exact same moment, yet that was the message the machines were broadcasting without pause. The alarms varied, some indicating tachycardia, others desaturation, hypotension, or arrhythmias, but all sounded together, a synchronized signal of distress that defied logic. I felt my heart pound as adrenaline surged through me. The instinct to rush to each bedside was immediate, but the sheer scale of the event was overwhelming. The ICU, typically a place of controlled urgency, was suddenly consumed by a wave of confusion and frantic activity. Staff called out to one another, voices raised over the cacophony, trying to coordinate responses and make sense of what was happening. Maria was at my side in an instant, We exchanged a quick glance, mutual acknowledgement of the impossible situation unfolding. Without hesitation, we split up, moving rapidly toward our assigned patients. The alarms continued unabated, the machines flashing and sounding as though warning of the end of the world. The central monitoring station became a hive of activity. Physicians gathered, eyes wide with disbelief, scanning the screens for patterns or clues. Respiratory therapists paused their tasks, alert and ready to intervene. The biomedical engineers were summoned urgently, their presence a rare but crucial reassurance amid the turmoil. Despite the chaos, a methodical approach took hold. We began to assess patients manually, checking vital signs with our own hands and instruments. Pulse oximeters were applied directly, blood pressures measured with cuffs, hearts listened to with stethoscopes. The contrast between the cacophony of alarms and the relative calm of patient assessments was jarring. As I leaned over Mrs. Henderson's bed, I felt the steady beat of her pulse beneath my fingers. Her skin was warm, her breathing slow and regular. The monitor beside her screamed warnings, but my assessment told a different story. I moved quickly to Mr. Lee, checking his cardiac rhythm manually. His heart sounded regular, his oxygen saturation steady. The alarms persisted, but the patients themselves showed no signs of acute distress. Throughout the unit, the pattern repeated. Machines screamed in unison, but patients remained stable, their vital signs reassuring when measured directly. The surreal nature of the moment was almost suffocating. How could every monitor be sounding critical alerts simultaneously, yet none of the patients be in crisis? The confusion was compounded by the sensory overload. The cacophony of alarms made communication difficult. Staff raised their voices, calling out observations and instructions. The flashing lights made it hard to focus, casting an unnatural pallor over the faces of patients and caregivers alike. In the midst of this, the human element persisted, nurses and doctors working frantically yet carefully, refusing to be overwhelmed by the chaos. Families gathered outside the ICU, alerted by the commotion. Their anxiety intensified as they heard the alarms and sensed the upheaval. Staff members moved swiftly to provide reassurance, explaining that we were assessing the situation and that their loved ones were safe. The challenge of balancing transparency with calm was immense, but essential. The biomedical engineers examined the monitoring equipment on the spot, their expertise critical in this moment. They checked wiring, network connections, and power supplies. IT specialists arrived to assess the hospital's digital systems, scanning for glitches or cyber intrusions. The tension in the room was palpable as we waited for answers that did not come quickly. Meanwhile, the alarms continued, a relentless, synchronized clamor that refused to abate. It was as if the entire ICU had been plunged into a nightmare where technology itself had turned against us. Every second felt stretched, each moment heavy with uncertainty and urgency. Despite the surreal nature of the event, our team's professionalism never wavered. We moved with purpose, coordinating assessments and interventions, prioritizing patient safety above all else. The instinct to trust the machines was shaken, but the commitment to our patients remained steadfast. In those intense moments, I realized how deeply intertwined our practice had become with technology. We depend on these machines to extend our senses, to alert us to danger before it becomes visible. Yet, when that trust is breached, even temporarily, the foundation of care feels unstable. The simultaneous alarms were not just technical anomalies. They were a direct challenge to our vigilance and resilience. As the minutes passed, the urgency did not diminish. The alarms continued to sound, yet patients remained stable. The dissonance between machine signals and clinical reality was a contradiction that demanded explanation. The ICU was enveloped in a strange limbo, caught between chaos and calm, between fear and rational assessment. The synchronized alarms marked a turning point in my understanding of critical care. They revealed the vulnerability inherent in reliance on technology, the need for constant questioning, and the importance of human judgment. The night had transformed from routine vigilance into an extraordinary test of skill, teamwork, and resolve. Through it all, the staff's dedication shone through. Despite exhaustion and uncertainty, we rallied together, supporting one another and maintaining focus on the patients. The unity forged in that moment was a testament to the strength and spirit of the critical care team. That night, the ICU was flooded with noise and light, a stark departure from its usual measured quiet. The simultaneous alarms were a shockwave that disrupted the familiar order, forcing every one of us to confront the unexpected. It was a moment that would linger in my memory, a vivid reminder of the unpredictable nature of critical care and the fragile balance we strive to maintain. The room was filled with flashing monitors and the cacophony of alarms. Faces were tense but resolute. Hands moved swiftly to assess, to reassure, to act. And amid the chaos, a quiet determination persisted, a commitment to face the unknown with courage and care. In the immediate aftermath of the simultaneous alarm eruption, our team's first priority was to assess the clinical status of each patient manually. The sudden, unit-wide cacophony had thrown the ICU into a state of controlled chaos, but beneath the noise, the fundamentals of nursing and critical care demanded that we rely on first-hand evaluation rather than the machines that had so suddenly betrayed us. I remember the rush of adrenaline as I moved from bedside to bedside, Maria close behind. Our hands became our most reliable tools, checking pulses, listening to breath sounds, measuring blood pressures with cuffs, and watching for any visible signs of distress. The contrast between the blaring alarms and the calm, stable patients was startling. The machines were screaming warnings, yet human assessment told a different story. At Mrs. Henderson's bedside, I counted her respiratory rate, feeling the steady rise and fall of her chest. Her skin was warm and pink, her pupils reactive, and she was alert enough to respond to gentle conversation. The monitor beside her continued to flash red, signaling low oxygen saturation, but my pulse oximeter showed a steady 96%. I made a mental note to document this discrepancy. I moved quickly to Mr. Lee, whose cardiac monitor had been blaring arrhythmia alerts. Placing my stethoscope on his chest, I listened carefully. His heart rate was regular and strong, and his blood pressure cuff showed readings consistent with stability. This pattern of disparity repeated throughout my rounds. Patients who should have been in crisis, according to the monitors, were displaying vital signs well within expected ranges. This contradiction sparked immediate discussion among nurses and physicians. We began to question the accuracy of the monitors, but also remained vigilant for any subtle signs that could explain the alarms. Could there be a sudden, transient event causing the machines to misread data? Were we missing something clinically significant? To resolve these questions, we reverted to more traditional manual methods. Nurses took turns measuring vital signs at regular intervals, while physicians performed focused physical examinations. We relied on arterial blood gases and laboratory tests to assess oxygenation and acid-base status. Respiratory therapists checked ventilator settings and assessed lung sounds. The entire team mobilized to ensure no warning sign was overlooked. Communication became a critical tool in managing the confusion. We updated each other frequently, sharing observations and coordinating patient care. In the midst of the noise, clear and concise verbal communication helped maintain order. The nurses' station became a hub of activity, with phone lines ringing as family members sought updates and staff coordinated with ancillary departments. The biomedical engineering team worked in tandem with us, conducting real-time diagnostics on the monitoring equipment. Their presence was reassuring, though the lack of immediate answers added to the tension. They checked for loose connections, power surges, and software malfunctions, but initial inspections found nothing definitive. The machines were operational but delivering incongruent data. Throughout this process, the emotional strain on staff was evident. Faces that usually carried calm professionalism were marked with worry and fatigue. Yet, there was no room for panic. The gravity of critical care demands composure even in the most bewildering circumstances. We reminded each other to breathe, to focus on the patients, and to trust our clinical skills. Families waiting outside the unit sensed the disruption. Staff members took turns updating them, balancing transparency with reassurance. The uncertainty was difficult to convey, but honesty was essential. We explained that the alarms were being investigated and that patient safety was our highest priority. Their expressions reflected a mixture of fear and hope, underscoring the human impact of the technological failure. As the minutes dragged into an hour, we maintained a rigorous schedule of assessments and documentation. Every discrepancy between machine readings and manual observations was recorded, creating a detailed timeline of the event. This data would later prove invaluable in understanding the incident and preventing recurrence. The experience underscored the importance of maintaining clinical skills alongside technological reliance. It was a stark reminder that while monitors and alarms are critical tools, they are adjuncts, not substitutes, for direct patient assessment and critical thinking. Our training prepared us for this balance, but the intensity of the moment tested our ability to apply it under pressure. The unit's atmosphere shifted from initial shock to focused problem-solving. Despite the confusion, teamwork flourished. Nurses supported each other, sharing tasks and observations. Physicians collaborated closely with nursing staff and specialists, pooling expertise to navigate the uncertainty. Respiratory therapists adjusted ventilator parameters cautiously, mindful of the potential for undetected respiratory compromise. Meanwhile, ancillary services were mobilized. Laboratory technicians expedited blood draws and analyses. Pharmacy reviewed medication infusions to rule out drug-related causes of instability. The hospital's IT department was engaged to investigate potential network issues. The collective effort highlighted the complexity of modern critical care and the necessity of interdisciplinary cooperation. Throughout the ordeal, I was struck by the resilience of both patients and staff. Patients remained calm, perhaps unaware of the turmoil around them, while staff maintained professionalism despite the emotional toll. In moments between assessments, brief exchanges of reassurance and encouragement passed between colleagues, reminding us of our shared purpose. The incident also gave rise to important questions about our dependency on technology. We pondered the vulnerabilities inherent in complex systems and the need for contingency plans that prioritize human judgment. The experience would prompt hospital leadership to review protocols and consider enhancements to monitoring systems and staff training. As dawn approached, the alarms finally began to subside, though the cause of the simultaneous alerts remained elusive. The patient's vital signs remained stable, and the unit gradually returned to its usual rhythm. Exhausted but vigilant, we continued to monitor closely, aware that the resolution of the immediate crisis did not end the mystery. That night, the ICU functioned as a testament to the power of teamwork, clinical acumen, and resilience in the face of uncertainty. The frantic efforts to assess and verify each patient's condition underscored the irreplaceable value of human presence and expertise. Even amid technological confusion, the commitment to patient safety never wavered. In those hours, I was reminded that nursing is as much an art as it is a science. A discipline grounded in observation, intuition, and compassion, supported but not defined by machines. The experience reinforced my belief in the importance of maintaining these core skills, especially in an era of increasing technological complexity. Though the cause of the alarms was yet to be determined, the night's events deepened my respect for the ICU team's dedication and adaptability. We faced an extraordinary challenge with determination and care, embodying the essence of critical care nursing. The lessons learned that night would ripple through our practice, shaping future responses and reinforcing the delicate balance between technology and human judgment that defines life in the ICU. As the alarms continued their relentless chorus, it became clear that the source of the disturbance was not clinical but technological, and unraveling that mystery required a different kind of expertise. Shortly after the initial manual assessments confirmed patient stability, our hospital's biomedical engineering team was called in, their arrival marking the beginning of an exhaustive investigation into the monitoring systems that had plunged the ICU into chaos. The engineers moved swiftly and methodically, their demeanor calm but focused. They began by examining the physical infrastructure, checking cables, connectors, and bedside monitors for any obvious signs of damage or malfunction. Each device was scrutinized, from the ECG leads to the pulse oximeters, ensuring that nothing had been physically compromised. To our relief, no wear or breakage was evident. The hardware appeared intact and operational. Next came a comprehensive review of the network systems that linked the monitors to the central station. In modern ICUs like ours, patient data flows through a complex digital web, allowing real-time monitoring and centralized alerts. The engineers accessed system logs and diagnostics, tracing data packets and evaluating signal integrity. They looked for glitches, latency issues, or any sign of network interruptions that might have caused simultaneous false alarms. The hospital's IT department was soon engaged as well, joining forces with biomedical engineers to delve deeper into the digital landscape. Together, they explored the possibility of software errors, bugs, or corrupt files that might trigger widespread false alarms. They ran diagnostic programs and simulated data flows, searching for anomalies in the code or configuration settings. Cybersecurity experts were also consulted, given the increasing awareness of the vulnerability of hospital networks to malicious interference. The idea that a cyber attack could disrupt critical monitoring systems was deeply unsettling, but prudence demanded thorough investigation. Firewalls, access logs, and system permissions were examined meticulously to rule out unauthorized access. Throughout this technological inquiry, the biomedical and IT teams communicated their findings regularly with the clinical staff. Their updates were cautious but transparent, reflecting the uncertainty that accompanied the investigation. They conveyed that, so far, no definitive technical fault or breach had been identified, leaving the cause of the simultaneous alarms unresolved. The complexity of the ICU's monitoring systems became strikingly apparent during this process. Multiple vendors supplied different components, monitors, network switches, servers, and their integration depended on compatibility and precise calibration. Any misalignment or software mismatch could potentially create unpredictable behavior. The engineers noted that the system's layered architecture, while designed for redundancy and reliability, also introduced vulnerabilities that were challenging to pinpoint. In the hours that followed, testing intensified. The team conducted controlled simulations, replicating network traffic and stress testing the monitors to observe their responses under various conditions. They monitored electromagnetic interference, which can sometimes disrupt sensitive medical devices, especially in environments saturated with electronic equipment. Despite exhaustive testing, the alarms remained enigmatic. No environmental factors, such as power surges, radio frequency interference, or equipment malfunction, explained the synchronized alerts. The mystery deepened, prompting discussions about potential rare or unprecedented software glitches, or even unknown external influences. The engineers also examined the recent maintenance and software updates performed on the systems. While routine updates are essential for security and functionality, they can occasionally introduce unforeseen issues. However, the logs showed that no recent changes coincided with the timing of the event, ruling out this possibility. Throughout this intense investigation, the engineers worked closely with clinical staff to understand the context and implications of the alarms. Their collaboration underscored the interdependence of technology and patient care in the ICU. It became evident that while machines provide invaluable support, their complexity requires constant vigilance and expert oversight. The hospital's leadership was kept informed throughout, convening emergency meetings to coordinate responses and allocate resources. Discussions began around contingency planning, system redundancies, and possible upgrades to prevent future incidents. The incident sparked a broader reflection on the reliance on technology and the need for robust safeguards. Meanwhile, the clinical team maintained heightened vigilance, continuing manual monitoring and patient assessments. The experience reinforced an essential lesson. Technology is a powerful ally, but human judgment remains paramount. The event served as a stark reminder that even the most advanced systems can falter, and preparedness extends beyond machines to include people. As dawn approached, the biomedical engineers and IT specialists continued their work, determined to uncover the root cause. Their dedication was a testament to the critical role of behind-the-scenes experts in healthcare, those whose work is often invisible but vital. The investigation extended beyond the ICU, as similar systems in other hospital departments were reviewed for anomalies. So far, no other units reported comparable incidents, deepening the mystery around why the ICU was uniquely affected. Despite the uncertainty, the collaborative spirit among engineers, IT professionals, and clinical staff remained strong. Regular briefings fostered mutual understanding and trust, bridging the gap between technology and medicine. This interdisciplinary teamwork was crucial in navigating the crisis. The event also prompted the hospital to review its emergency protocols related to technological failures. Plans for rapid manual override of monitoring systems, alternative communication channels, and staff training on equipment troubleshooting were revisited. The goal was to enhance resilience against future disruptions. Throughout the ordeal, I observed how the crisis highlighted the fragility and strength of our healthcare ecosystem. Dependence on technology is undeniable, but so is the necessity of human adaptability and problem-solving. The incident became a catalyst for reflection and improvement. In the days following, the hospital convened a task force to conduct a comprehensive review. Their mandate included analyzing the incident, recommending technical solutions, and developing policies to safeguard patient safety. The team included engineers, clinicians, administrators, and risk management experts, a multidisciplinary approach mirroring the collaborative ethos of the ICU. As the investigation continued, the ICU staff remained vigilant, aware that the lessons from this event would shape future practice. The experience underscored the importance of humility in medicine, recognizing that despite advances, uncertainty persists. That night's technological mystery became a defining moment for the hospital's approach to critical care infrastructure. It reminded all of us that the interplay between man and machine is complex and that preparedness requires embracing both innovation and caution. While the cause of the simultaneous alarms remained elusive, the commitment to uncovering the truth and enhancing patient safety never wavered. The investigation was a journey into the heart of modern medicine's reliance on technology, a journey marked by collaboration, perseverance, and the relentless pursuit of understanding. The hours following the mysterious alarms were unlike any I had experienced in my years as an ICU nurse. Beneath the sterile lights and humming machines, an undercurrent of anxiety rippled through the staff, patients, and their families alike. The uncertainty of what had transpired, combined with the relentless noise of flashing monitors and persistent alarms, created a tense atmosphere that challenged not only our clinical skills but our emotional resilience. Among the hardest hit were the nurses and physicians, whose faces bore the weight of responsibility and exhaustion. The sudden eruption of alerts had jolted us from routine vigilance into an intense crisis mode, demanding rapid assessments and constant communication. Even as we reassured ourselves that patients were stable, the psychological impact lingered beneath the surface. The dissonance between the machine's warnings and the clinical reality created a sense of disquiet that was difficult to shake. I noticed how my colleagues oscillated between frustration and determination. Some paced briefly in the hallways, taking deep breaths to steady their nerves. Others exchanged quiet words of encouragement, sharing the burden of uncertainty. The camaraderie became a vital source of strength, a reminder that we were not alone in facing this bewildering event. The families waiting outside the ICU were caught in a parallel storm of emotions. Many had been alerted by the sudden alarms or the intensified activity within the unit. The sight of beeping machines and rushing staff had understandably sparked fear. When approached, their faces revealed a mixture of confusion, worry, and hope. We did our best to provide honest yet reassuring updates, balancing the need for transparency with the imperative to maintain calm. One family member, a young woman whose father was recovering from sepsis, clung to my words with wide eyes. She asked repeatedly if her father was safe, if the alarms meant he was deteriorating. I held her hand gently and explained that the monitors had issued false alarms and that our team was closely watching her father's condition. Her relief was palpable, but so too was the lingering anxiety. Moments like that made me acutely aware of the human element behind every medical event, the fears, hopes, and vulnerabilities that define the patient experience. Within the ICU, the emotional toll was not limited to the staff and families. Patients, many sedated or unable to communicate, nonetheless sensed the heightened energy around them. The subtle changes in staff behavior, the increased urgency, the flurry of activity, may have contributed to an unspoken tension. For those able to perceive their surroundings, the disruption to the usual calm could be unsettling. Recognizing the emotional strain, the hospital's support services were mobilized. Social workers and chaplains moved through the unit and waiting areas, offering comfort and listening ears. Their presence was a reminder that critical care extends beyond physical health to encompass psychological and spiritual well-being. They provided guidance to families grappling with uncertainty and helped staff process their own feelings. The emotional landscape of that night was complex and multifaceted. Nurses who are trained to project calm found themselves grappling with frustration over the technological failure and concern for their patients. Physicians balanced clinical decision-making with the need to communicate effectively under pressure. Respiratory therapists adjusted treatments while managing their own unease. Throughout the ordeal, I observed moments of quiet humanity that underscored the resilience of our team. A nurse pausing to offer a gentle touch to a patient's hand. A doctor taking a moment to reassure a worried family member. Colleagues sharing a brief smile amidst the tension. These acts, small yet profound, anchored us amid the chaos. The incident also sparked conversations among staff about the psychological impact of working in such a high-stakes environment. We acknowledged the cumulative stress and the importance of self-care. Debriefings were scheduled to allow open dialogue, providing a safe space to express fears, frustrations, and hopes. These sessions fostered solidarity and helped mitigate the risk of burnout. Families, too, were encouraged to engage with support resources. We recognized that the experience of having a loved one in critical care is inherently stressful and that unexpected events only compound that strain. Transparent communication, empathy, and emotional support became central pillars of our response. The incident highlighted the delicate balance between technology and humanity in healthcare. While machines provide critical data and early warnings, the emotional connection between caregivers, patients, and families remains irreplaceable. Trust is built not only on the reliability of equipment but on the compassion and presence of the healthcare team. In the days that followed, I reflected on how the emotional toll of that night would ripple through the ICU staff and families. The shared experience created bonds forged in adversity. It also underscored the need for institutional recognition of the psychological demands placed on healthcare workers and patients alike. The hospital administration responded by initiating programs aimed at enhancing emotional resilience. Workshops on stress management, mindfulness sessions, and increased availability of counseling services were introduced. Leadership emphasized the importance of mental health as integral to patient safety and quality care. As a nurse, I found renewed appreciation for the holistic nature of critical care. Beyond monitoring vital signs and administering treatments, our role encompasses emotional support, reassurance, and presence. The technology can alert us to physical changes, but it is the human touch that often provides the greatest comfort. That night's experience was a powerful reminder that behind every alarm, every monitor, and every clinical intervention, there are people, patients fighting for their lives, families clinging to hope, and caregivers navigating the intersection of science and empathy. The emotional toll we endured was a testament to the depth of our commitment and the complexity of the work we do. In the quiet moments after the alarms finally ceased, I felt a profound sense of solidarity with my colleagues and the patients we serve. The ICU is a place of vulnerability and strength, of uncertainty and hope. That night, the emotional challenges we faced revealed the heart beneath the technology. A heart that beats in every nurse, doctor, patient, and family member who walks through those doors. As the frantic hours unfolded and the alarms finally began to subside, a new phase of the mystery emerged. Despite every monitor in the ICU screaming in unison, none of the patients had actually deteriorated at the moment the alerts blared. This paradox became the focal point of our collective efforts, a puzzle that challenged both clinical intuition and technological trust. The initial shock gave way to deeper reflection. How could it be that every device, calibrated and maintained with the utmost care, simultaneously sounded alarms without corresponding patient events? Our clinical assessments, manual checks, and laboratory data all pointed to stability. The monitors, however, told a different story. This disconnect sparked a wave of theories as we sought to unravel the anomaly. One of the first possibilities considered was electromagnetic interference. The ICU is saturated with electronic equipment. Ventilators, infusion pumps, computers, telemetry systems, and countless other devices humming continuously. Electromagnetic fields generated by these machines can sometimes disrupt sensitive equipment, causing false readings or erratic behavior. We explored whether a surge or interference from nearby equipment, perhaps even a newly installed device, could have triggered the alarms. Biomedical engineers meticulously scanned the unit with specialized detectors looking for unusual electromagnetic activity. They examined the spatial arrangement of devices, power sources, and wiring to identify any hotspots or anomalies. However, the results were inconclusive. No significant electromagnetic interference was detected at the time of the event. The environment remained within expected parameters, leaving this theory unconfirmed. Another avenue of inquiry focused on software glitches. Modern ICU monitors operate on complex software platforms that integrate data from multiple sensors, apply algorithms, and generate alerts based on predefined thresholds. It's not uncommon for software bugs or updates to introduce unexpected behaviors. Could a rare system-wide software error have caused all monitors to simultaneously trigger false alarms? The IT and biomedical teams collaborated to review software versions, patch histories, and error logs. They simulated scenarios to reproduce the event under controlled conditions but found no consistent patterns. The software appeared robust, and no recent updates aligned with the timing of the incident. Yet, the possibility of an obscure, intermittent bug remained on the table, especially considering the complexity of the integrated systems. Cybersecurity experts also weighed in, given the increasing threat of cyberattacks targeting healthcare infrastructure. A coordinated digital intrusion could theoretically disrupt monitoring systems, causing false alarms or worse. The hospital's network security was thoroughly audited, including firewall logs, access records, and intrusion detection systems. No evidence of unauthorized access or malicious activity emerged. This finding provided some reassurance but did not fully eliminate concerns about potential vulnerabilities. As these technical investigations progressed, clinical teams began to explore whether any physiological or environmental factors could have contributed. For instance, simultaneous physiological events across multiple patients seemed improbable, but not impossible. Could a sudden change in ambient temperature, oxygen supply fluctuations, or medication errors have caused transient physiological disturbances that triggered alarms? Environmental controls were reviewed, including HVAC systems and oxygen delivery infrastructure. No anomalies were detected. Pharmacy records confirmed that medication administration had proceeded without incident. The clinical data remained stable, reinforcing the conclusion that patient deterioration was not the cause. The incongruity between machine alarms and patient status led to discussions about the reliance on technology and the inherent limitations of monitoring systems. While essential tools, monitors are not infallible. False alarms, though frustrating, are a recognized challenge in critical care, often leading to alarm fatigue and desensitization. However, a simultaneous system-wide false alarm event was unprecedented in our experience. This rare occurrence sparked curiosity and concern. Was it a warning sign of systemic vulnerabilities in the ICU's technological infrastructure? Could such an event recur, potentially leading to missed genuine alarms or delayed responses? The incident became a catalyst for intense review and dialogue within the hospital. In the days following, multidisciplinary teams convened to analyze data, debrief staff, and formulate hypotheses. Equipment manufacturers were consulted, sharing insights and technical expertise. Peer institutions were contacted to determine if similar events had been reported elsewhere. The search for answers extended beyond our walls, highlighting the broader challenges of integrating complex technology into patient care. Throughout this process, the staff grappled with the psychological impact of the event. The breach of trust in monitoring systems prompted reflection on the balance between human vigilance and technological dependence. Nurses and physicians reaffirmed the importance of maintaining clinical skills and critical thinking alongside technological tools. The incident also fueled discussions about implementing redundant systems and fail-safes. Could parallel monitoring platforms, independent of the primary network, provide backup alerts? Should manual monitoring protocols be enhanced during system anomalies? These questions guided policy reviews and future planning. Amid the uncertainty, the ICU team's resolve remained steadfast. The event became a learning opportunity, an impetus to strengthen systems, refine protocols, and nurture a culture of adaptability. While the exact cause of the synchronized false alarms remained elusive, the commitment to patient safety and continuous improvement was unwavering. The paradox of simultaneous alarms without corresponding patient deterioration underscored the complexity of modern critical care. It revealed the delicate interplay between technology and human judgment, and the challenges of navigating uncertainty in a high-stakes environment. As investigations continued, the ICU staff remained vigilant, balancing trust in technology with hands-on assessment. The experience deepened our appreciation for the nuances of monitoring and the imperative to question and verify, even when machines speak loudly. This extraordinary event became a touchstone in our collective memory, a reminder that in medicine, certainty is often provisional, and that the pursuit of understanding is ongoing. It challenged us to embrace complexity and foster resilience, both technological and human, in the care of those who depend on us. The aftermath of that bewildering night at St. Mercy's ICU sparked a wave of decisive action within the hospital's administration and clinical leadership. Faced with an incident that defied explanation yet exposed vulnerabilities in our critical care monitoring systems, the institution committed itself to implementing new protocols and safeguards designed to prevent a recurrence and to strengthen the resilience of patient care. One of the immediate responses was the formation of a multidisciplinary task force, comprising representatives from nursing, medicine, biomedical engineering, information technology, and hospital administration. This group was charged with analyzing the incident in detail, reviewing existing systems, and recommending comprehensive strategies for improvement. Their work was thorough and transparent, reflecting the hospital's culture of accountability and continuous learning. A key focus of the task force was the enhancement of monitoring system redundancies. Recognizing that reliance on a single integrated network posed risks, plans were developed to introduce parallel monitoring platforms. These systems would function independently yet simultaneously, providing cross-verification of patient data and alarms. The goal was to create a safety net that could detect and compensate for anomalies in either system, thereby reducing the likelihood of false simultaneous alarms or missed critical events. In tandem with technological upgrades, the hospital revisited its alarm management policies. Alarm fatigue, a well-documented phenomenon where frequent false or non-actionable alarms desensitize staff, was a central concern. The task force proposed refinements to alarm thresholds and prioritization, aiming to optimize sensitivity without overwhelming clinicians. These changes involved customizing alarm parameters to individual patient conditions more precisely and incorporating adaptive algorithms that could learn and adjust over time. To support these technical and policy changes, staff education and training were intensified. The hospital invested in simulation scenarios replicating various alarm failure situations, allowing staff to practice manual assessments, communication protocols, and crisis management under controlled conditions. These exercises reinforced the importance of human judgment alongside technology and prepared teams to respond effectively when systems falter. Furthermore, the hospital expanded its preventive maintenance schedules and quality assurance programs for all monitoring equipment and IT infrastructure. Regular audits, software updates, and hardware inspections were mandated with increased frequency, ensuring that devices functioned optimally and any emerging issues were addressed proactively. Recognizing the psychological impact of the event on staff, the administration also bolstered support services. Wellness programs, counseling resources, and peer support networks were enhanced to help healthcare workers cope with stress and maintain resilience. Leadership emphasized open communication channels, encouraging staff to report concerns and participate in ongoing quality improvement initiatives. The incident also prompted a reevaluation of communication practices with patients and families during technological failures. Protocols were developed to ensure timely and transparent updates, balancing honesty with reassurance. Family liaisons and social workers were incorporated more systematically into the care team during crises, providing emotional support and facilitating understanding. Beyond the immediate hospital environment, the event catalyzed engagement with external partners. The hospital collaborated with equipment manufacturers to investigate potential software vulnerabilities and jointly develop patches or updates. It also shared its findings and experiences with regional healthcare networks and professional organizations, contributing to a broader dialogue on critical care technology safety. Internally, the incident reinforced a culture of vigilance and adaptability. Staff were reminded that technology, while indispensable, is subject to failure and must never supplant clinical acumen. The balance between trust in machines and reliance on human skills became a central theme in staff meetings and educational forums. These changes manifested in day-to-day operations within the ICU. Nurses and physicians adopted heightened awareness of alarm patterns and potential system irregularities. Manual vital sign checks were integrated more deliberately into routine practice, especially during system maintenance or updates. Cross-disciplinary communication became even more prioritized, ensuring that anomalies were investigated promptly and collaboratively. The hospital's investment in infrastructure and training yielded tangible benefits. Subsequent system stress tests and real-world challenges revealed improved responsiveness and reduced false alarm rates. Staff confidence in monitoring systems was gradually restored, underpinned by the knowledge that robust safeguards and support mechanisms were in place. At the policy level, the hospital contributed to developing regional guidelines on ICU monitoring safety. Sharing lessons learned helped elevate standards beyond our institution, fostering a community of practice committed to patient safety amidst technological complexity. The incident also sparked reflection on the ethical dimensions of technology dependence in healthcare. Discussions considered how to balance innovation with caution, ensuring that patient safety and dignity remain paramount. These conversations influenced strategic planning, emphasizing human-centered design and interoperability in future equipment acquisitions. Through it all, the ICU team's resilience and professionalism were unwavering. The event, though disruptive and unsettling, became an impetus for growth and improvement. It reminded everyone involved that patient safety is a dynamic pursuit, requiring constant attention, collaboration, and humility. In the weeks and months following, the atmosphere in the ICU evolved. The memories of that chaotic night became a shared narrative, a story of challenge met with determination, confusion confronted with inquiry, and vulnerability transformed into strength. While the precise cause of the simultaneous alarms remained a lingering mystery, the hospital's response ensured that such an event would be less likely to compromise care in the future. This journey underscored a fundamental truth. In critical care, technology is a powerful ally but not an infallible one. The human element, skill, judgment, compassion is essential. By embracing this balance, St. Mercy Medical Center reaffirmed its commitment to excellence and the unyielding pursuit of patient well-being. The lessons learned reshaped policies, redefined practices, and rekindled a culture of preparedness. They served as a testament to the hospital's dedication to learning from adversity and to continually evolving in the face of complexity. The incident, while a moment of crisis, became a catalyst for lasting positive change, a beacon guiding the future of critical care at St. Mercy and beyond. Reflecting on that bewildering night in the ICU, I am reminded of the delicate balance that defines critical care. The interplay between cutting-edge technology and human intuition, between protocol and adaptability. The simultaneous alarms that erupted without cause challenged everything we thought we understood about our environment, our tools, and ourselves. Yet, through the confusion and chaos, profound lessons emerged about teamwork, preparedness, and the unpredictable nature of life in the ICU. The experience underscored the importance of collaboration across disciplines. Nurses, physicians, respiratory therapists, biomedical engineers, IT specialists, social workers, and administrators all came together, each bringing unique expertise and perspective. In moments of crisis, this multidisciplinary synergy was not just beneficial, it was essential. We moved beyond silos, communicating openly and supporting one another, united by a shared commitment to patient safety and care. I recall how, amid the cacophony of alarms and flashing monitors, the human element remained our anchor. While machines faltered, our senses and judgment prevailed. Manual assessments, vigilant observation, and calm communication guided our actions. The technology that usually extends our reach momentarily failed, but our training and teamwork filled the gap. It was a reminder that no matter how advanced our tools become, they cannot replace the compassionate presence and critical thinking of healthcare professionals. The incident also highlighted the unpredictable nature of critical care. Despite meticulous preparation and sophisticated systems, uncertainty remains a constant companion. We learned that embracing this uncertainty with humility and resilience is vital. The ability to adapt, to question, and to persist under pressure defines our work as much as any protocol or device. Emotionally, the event left an indelible mark. The anxiety, frustration, and vulnerability experienced by staff and families revealed the deeply human side of medicine. It reminded me that healthcare is not only about physiology and technology, but also about empathy, trust, and connection. Supporting one another through such challenges strengthens the fabric of care. The aftermath sparked meaningful changes in the ICU and the hospital at large. New protocols, enhanced training, and improved technological safeguards were implemented, reflecting a commitment to learning and growth. Yet, beyond these tangible improvements, the incident fostered a culture that values questioning, vigilance, and collaboration. A culture prepared to face the unknown with courage. As I reflect on that night, I think about the countless patients who rely on us when their lives are most fragile. Their resilience inspires us. Their families entrust us with hope. Our role is a profound responsibility that transcends technology and procedure. It calls for presence, compassion, and unwavering dedication. The experience reinforced my belief in the power of teamwork and the importance of maintaining a balance between embracing innovation and preserving the core human elements of care. It challenged me to continually reassess assumptions, to remain curious, and to trust both the science and the art of medicine. That night in the ICU was more than an anomaly. It was a catalyst for reflection and transformation. It brought into sharp focus the strengths and vulnerabilities inherent in modern critical care. It reminded us that while technology evolves, the essence of healing remains rooted in human connection and resilience. Though the simultaneous alarms were a moment of crisis, the unity and resolve they inspired became a testament to the spirit of the ICU team at St. Mercy. We emerged with renewed commitment and insight, ready to face future challenges with fortified resolve. In the end, that night was a powerful narrative about the heart of medicine, its mysteries, its demands, and its profound humanity. It is a story I carry with me, a reminder that in the delicate dance between knowledge and uncertainty, it is our compassion and collaboration that illuminate the path forward.